Representative Aubuchon, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask that Representative Thompson be recognized to deliver her farewell remarks.
Members, please take your seats. Representative Thompson, you are recognized to give your farewell remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'd like to ask you to do something for me just to loosen up for a minute. Would you move to the very edge of your seat and applaud as loudly as you can? Just move to the edge of your seat and clap as loudly as you can. Thank you, members. You know, I didn't know what to expect when I came to the Florida House of Representatives in the superminority. But I want you to know that my legislative career got off to a bang-up start. Shortly after I arrived here, I got a call from the governor's office saying that the executive office wanted to send some folks over to talk with me about some of my legislation. So I'm thinking, well, that's what I'm talking about. So the folks came over and we sat down and we talked, and during the conversation, I was very confused. I looked at them, you know, very blankly, and they looked at me because I had no idea what they were talking about. They were confused, I was confused, and after they left, I found out that they were looking for Representative Nick Thompson. Now, Nick Thompson and I talked about the confusion regarding the Thompsons in public service here in the state of Florida. There had been confusion even before Nick and I arrived and even before he and I met. You see, Nick's father is a judge, and my husband is a judge. My husband served on the county court bench in Orange County, on the circuit bench in the 9th Judicial Circuit, and on the 5th District Court of Appeals. So we had two Judge Thompsons in Florida. And Nick reminded me of an occasion when my husband attended a judges conference and I stayed home. Well, I called the hotel where the judges conference was being held, and I asked for Judge Thompson. The operator connected me with the room, and a lady that I didn't know answered the phone. And I said, I'd like to speak with Judge Thompson, and she says he's not able to come to the phone, he's in the shower. So I'm thinking, let me get this straight. I'm at home, I call a hotel, the operator puts me through to my husband's room, a lady answers the phone, and she says he's in the shower. So I could have said a lot of things, but I said, and who are you? And she said, I'm his wife. Well, this year, my husband and I will celebrate 42 years of marriage. So the news that I had just received from the lady on the phone gave me great pause. Well, suffice it to say that I had been connected with Nick Thompson's parents' room. So everything was safe when my husband got home. And I told Nick that one day I was going to tell that story. You know, I was very popular when Nick Thompson was here. I used to get his mail. I got a book of 100 ideas. I got all kind of correspondence from the Republican Party of Florida and the Republican leadership. So things were going well. I had one problem, however. When I came into the chamber, there were two Thompsons on the board, just as there are two Williams on the board right now, Williams A and Williams T. Well, when I looked at the board, the two Thompsons were in this order, Thompson N and Thompson G. Now, I understand the majority and all of that, but in alphabetical order, N does not come before G. So I pointed this out to the technical staff and leadership, and after a couple of weeks, that was rectified. Well, I got bills heard and I got bills passed when Nick was here, but then Nick became a judge, following in his father's footsteps. And he was here earlier this week. In fact, I saw him earlier today. And so I want to congratulate you, Judge Nick Thompson. I know, based on the funding that you get from this legislature, that you have a very heavy docket, and your judicial assistant hasn't had a raise in years. And there are questions about the independence of the judiciary, but congratulations, Judge Thompson. And I want you to know, bro, I haven't had a bill passed since you left. But members, all was not rosy when I started my legislative service. Shortly after my election, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had surgery and I began chemotherapy. I had an oncologist here in Tallahassee and one in Orlando. And I'd read about women who worked throughout their treatment for breast cancer, and I decided I could be one of those women. And so I continued my service here in Tallahassee. But the chemicals clouded my mind, made me a little bit confused. And so I sat quietly at my desk and tried to concentrate. The fog that I was in made me do things like put salt in a cup of coffee. The late Stan Mayfield, Representative Mayfield, was undergoing treatment at the same time. And he told me that his fog caused him one day to gather his clothes and put them in a bag to take them to the cleaners. And he put the bag on the back of his car and he went to the cleaners. Well, when he got to the cleaners, there was no bag and no clothes. So he retraced his steps, but he couldn't find anyone who would own up to having seen his clothes. Well, those of you who served with Representative Stan Mayfield know that he was a real sharp dresser. And so Stan said to me after this happened, I don't know what happened to my clothes, but there's some guy around these parts who is really, really, really well dressed. And so he kept his sense of humor, Debbie. And he told me how much he enjoyed shopping with you, and that you all would go to the mall and separate and then come back together at an agreed upon place and then compare the bargains that you had gotten. You know, to get through that kind of challenging treatment, you need a good support system. And he knew that he had that with you, Debbie, and with his family. One of the medications that I took caused me to lose feeling in my hands and my feet. And Representative Mayfield used to tease me about walking like Lurch. Well, I want you to know that the last time I saw him, and he never lost his sense of humor, the last time I saw him was at the end of session, and he and I and Representative Joyce Cusack had flown into the Orlando International Airport. He just had a treatment, and he said that he felt like his feet had been shot full of Novocaine. He was walking with Representative Cusack, who was having some problems with her knees, and so the three of us, members of this august body, came through the Orlando International Airport walking like Lurch. You would have been very proud of us. During my treatment, I lost my taste buds. I enjoyed ice cream a lot, which my daughter made sure I had lots of that, because the cool creaminess of it soothed my tongue, which had been blistered from the chemicals. And then I loved chocolate. And I want to thank you, Representative William Snyder, for the daily chocolate that you brought to my desk. And sometimes my eyes would draw out from the chemicals, and it felt like there was sand in them, and it was hard to keep them open. And I want to thank you, Representative Trudy Williams, for the eye lubricant. And I want to thank former Representative Stan Jordan for stopping by my desk on occasion to sing an uplifting song. He had a beautiful, beautiful voice. And thank you to the ladies in the clinic here on the 3rd floor who had a bed for me when I needed to take a break from the floor. And I want to thank the ladies in the dining hall and in the back for the bananas that you always made sure that you had for me, because the doctor wanted me to keep my potassium levels up. And thank you, Sergeant Ernie Sumner, and your staff who drove me home one day when I was too weak to drive myself. Initially, I didn't tell many people what I was facing. I told Representative Grimsley, I told Representative Cusack, they were both nurses, and I told Representative Coley. Before I went public with my illness, I sat behind a veteran legislator in this chamber, and I think he noticed that I was a little bit slow, but he didn't know exactly what was going on. And sometimes I didn't vote until the very last second. And so he started, if the square next to my name didn't light up immediately, he'd turn his chair around and say, "Geraldine, you need to vote, you need to vote." And then he would tutor me on all of the wonderful Republican bills that were coming up. And he would say, "Just press the green button." So I want to thank you, Representative Rich Glorioso. I appreciate your tutelage, but I was slow but not asleep. I told Representative Faye Culp about my fog, and to make me feel confident that I could serve, she said, "Geraldine, there are a lot of other people in this chamber who are in a fog, and they're not suffering from any kind of illness." Well, I finished my chemotherapy, and I had radiation. I got stronger, and my mind got clearer. I'm not yet 5 years out from the end of my treatment, so I get regular mammograms and scans. And the last set that I got came back NED, meaning no evidence of disease. Thank you. So as they said in the movie Poltergeist, I'm back.